When you're taking your Mod 1 and Mod 2 tests, it is actually possible to use your own bike rather than the bike owned by a training school. This is what I did when I took my A2 license. I actually did my test on my Z400. It was a bit of a process, so here's how I did it. As it's winter, the weather hasn't been too nice, so I thought I'd treat us all to some footage of sunnier times. First, there are certain restrictions on bikes that you can and can't use for your test, so you need to make sure that the bike you're buying is actually able to be used for the test. Here are the current rules as I record this video, but these are always subject to change. So when you're looking to buy your bike, Google something like bikes used on motorbike test, and you'll come to the government website where there'll be a list of all the compliant bikes. Feel free to pause the video to take a closer look. Once you've got a bike that you'll be able to use on your test, there are pretty much two main ways that you can use your own bike to do your license on. The first is what I did, and this is doing it through a training school. This is very similar to doing normal training through a training school where you hire their bike, but instead, contact the training school beforehand, let them know that you got your own bike that you want to use, and see if they'll accommodate that. It should just be a case of them adding your bike onto their school insurance, and then you doing all the normal training through them. Like I say, this is what I did, and I think this is the best way to do it. You're still getting professional training, but also there's less hassle with you having to transport the bike to and from the test centre, since you're going to be supervised by an instructor anyway. Usually the terms of their insurance will be that you can only ride when you're being instructed by a qualified instructor and you're within radio contact with them. This will be true when you're doing your training, so getting your bike from the training school to the test centre is not going to be a problem. So once you've got your bike and you've identified a school that will allow you to take training with them, next you have to get your bike from wherever it's stored at the minute to the training school. The training school I went with were really nice and they allowed me to store my bike on their property, so this meant that I didn't have to cart it back and forth all the time, I just had to take it there once. In my case, I bought my bike from a dealer, so instead of having them deliver it to my house, I just had them deliver it straight to the training school. If the bike is already in your possession, you have a couple of options. First is to put the bike in a van or on a trailer and then drive it to the training school. Next, if you have a friend who already has their license, you can have them take out temporary insurance to ride the bike up for you. Otherwise, you're only able to ride the bike when you're in radio contact with an instructor, so if your training school is local, they might be nice enough to come and pick you up at your house and you can ride to the training centre together. If you're not able to store your bike at the training centre, you'll have to figure out how you're going to get the bike back home again, and if you are storing it at the centre, think about security and ask them if their insurance covers theft. Once you've passed your test, you can take your own insurance out, rip the old plates off and then ride the bike yourself. The second option is to take your test completely independent of a training school. This is a little bit harder, but it does offer you more flexibility. Mainly it involves taking out learner insurance on your bike and then booking your tests. What's nice about this is you can just book your test as soon as there's availability that suits you. You don't have to wait for a training school to have a free slot for you. So in terms of getting insurance, what you're looking for is going to be learner motorcyclist insurance. I struggled a little bit to find this online. I had to call a couple of companies directly. This will cover you for insurance while you're actually taking your test, but it will also cover you for insurance while you're learning. One big caveat though is that you still have to be in radio contact with a qualified instructor, so you can't just take your bike on the streets and start learning yourself like you can on a CBT. Usually people will take out learner insurance for one day, just the day of their test, and then they'll transport the bike to the test centre, take their test and then have it transported home again. This could be either in a van or having a friend ride it, something like that. To book your Mod 1 and Mod 2 tests, if you just Google book driving test, go to the government website, you'll come to a portal where you'll be able to pick your days from there. I think this method will be really beneficial if you're on an A2 license and you're looking to do your full license. If you're already on a restricted 650cc bike or something, you could take out insurance for the test, ride your bike up there normally, take the test on it, of course de-restricting your bike for the test. Hopefully you pass and then you'll be able to just ride your bike unrestricted, provided you take out insurance once you've passed. Personally, I still wouldn't do this. Even if you've been riding on a restricted bike for a couple of years, I would still take a lesson or two just to bring you back up to test standard and remind you of anything that you might have forgotten. Also, when I looked into doing this method, I found it was actually more expensive than going through a training school. The only benefit would have been being able to pick my test dates more independently, rather than having to rely on dates that the training school had already bought. So there you go, that's how you can use your own bike to take your Mod 1 and Mod 2 tests. Don't forget to add L plates to your bike, you won't be able to take your training or your test without that. And let me know in the comments if you have any further questions. Safe riding, and I'll see you in the next one.